Dr. Swift, you're more familiar with what Ms. Linden has to present. I know we talked about how much more illuminating that might be.
Ms. Linden is happy to fast track, and her slideshow will be posted on board docs. She does flesh out a little bit of the learning day, which I do believe our parents might be interested in. Don't you think, trustees? That might be worthwhile. So Ms. Linden, and I know she was having some audio that she was dealing with a few minutes ago, but there she is. It sounds like we're in good shape here.
Thank you so much. All right, we're going to fast track this for sure. I'm going to share my screen and let me know if y'all can see that. We'll share some highlights tonight and we'll get to the goods of the schedule really soon. First, I do need to thank the core planning team that worked very hard on this. You'll see representation from across the district, teachers, administrators, curriculum team members, all gave of extra time and certainly stress and expertise to help craft the plan. And in addition, the Teaching and Learning Council, which is made up of some of the most intelligent people with whom I get to work on a daily basis, have been working on details and attempting to make this plan as strong as it possibly can be, and they will continue to do so. And of course, our building administrators, of whom there are many who are not listed, we do need to thank them for all of their dedication and work because they have the hard work of implementation. Very briefly, we are looking at a plan that will address these 5 areas, but within the lens and around the work of social justice and anti-racism. It's particularly important right now that we talk more about that work, and I want to recognize the comments of Trustee Lightfoot that when she said folks look to us to do the right thing and to lead, we're committed to doing just that. And later, I recognize Trustee Lazarus said we need to take advantage of this opportunity to reimagine. And so I just want you to view the rest of this work through that lens, and we'll talk a little bit about the curriculum work in it too, very briefly. So on the social emotional well-being side of things, Dr. Swift mentioned Base Camp. That's something in place PK through 12 where students have a touch place and sort of a home where they attend every single day in the district. And that is with caring adults with whom they can engage, share concerns, get support, feel certainly cared for from a human being, whole child place. We have screening tools we're working on to help identify the students who are coming back having experienced significant trauma. We've talked a lot about that today. And also really understanding all of the mental health supports in this county and in this city, of which there are many, and making sure we utilize our partnerships to help meet the needs of all of our students and their families. In our back to school work, we are working very hard on social emotional learning focused lessons for those advisory and morning meeting periods so that we understand we're first focused on the health and well-being of our students and also helping them to build self-awareness and also self-regulation during this time of online learning where they may have to pace themselves and connect and engage in ways they haven't before. Dr. Swift mentioned Connections Plus. We'll talk more about those additional supports. And of course, there are parent support groups and workshops planned. And several trustees mentioned this, the importance of engaging with families. So I just want you all to see that work is ongoing. And of course, it's freezing up on us here. Okay, the next piece is just very briefly for the community about Schoology. We've talked about it before, but during our spring experience, we quickly recognized that we needed a hub or an ecosystem for our online work to live and for a one-stop shop for families. And so these bullets in the center really do identify what Schoology can do for us. We have had an experience in summer. We're using all of that great information and information from our teachers and practitioners to help build a much better launch for fall. We're really, really grateful to the entire summer team for how they have implemented the tool and helped us figure out what was needed on the professional development side as well as on the planning side. So it's been really, really helpful. Obviously, it'll be our communication hub. Students will access their daily schedules there. Families can also see the students' daily schedules there. Class agendas with running deadlines for projects and assignments will be visible every single day. They'll be able to see what's happening in today, and they'll be able to see what's coming up, what deadlines do I have upcoming. Families can see that same view. So it's an important way that families and students can remain connected to what's going on in the online learning environment. In addition, families can monitor the attendance, assignment, submission, and progress of students. This is the place where students will log in through their Clever login and connect with live synchronous instruction, get their assignments, and access tools. It's also the place where teachers will post up and share their quality feedback. And I think an important piece of the Schoology experience is for families to know there is an app. And so a lot of us parents will use this tool more than we do a laptop or a desktop to access what's going on, and you can absolutely do that through an app. So we'll have more information soon. It'll be a part of our parent workshops that we'll be delivering both live, synchronous online, and recorded so that families can watch them when they need to. And I think Dr. Swift mentioned our one-to-one rollout this fall so that every single AAPS student has an AAPS device. It's really important for accessing securely Schoology apps and learning. Sometimes when you're using your own personal device, you have connection issues and you don't see the same tools and resources. So that'll be important to us. In addition, we're supporting with internet service, not just helping families to get information, but also doing the work of connecting them with service as a liaison. That's something that we're committed to doing, in addition to increasing the number of hotspots that we have ordered so that every single family is connected. Here is some broad information Dr. Swift shared briefly. Will be on block scheduling this fall and throughout the 2020-21 school year. So that means 3 blocks of learning core academics per day. They'll attend some courses on A days and the other courses on B days. The blocks give us that extended time so that students can engage longer with their teachers. It also gives us that break in the online learning period where they're live and engaged in the screen, and then they can log off and do their practice and application pieces. During that second piece of practice and application, many students will receive supplemental supports from support providers and service providers, so that's built into the school day. And we also designed this model so that the courses and the schedules continue as we turn the dial up or potentially back down again from face-to-face to online. So we don't have to go through the work of rescheduling and potentially breaking relationships and courses with peers. We don't ever want that. So we want to preserve those relationships. Each of these courses in the block schedule do meet the requirements for the state of Michigan, and we will be able to implement the full course curricula. So we're not shortchanging anybody. It's the same high quality, high rigor program. And these courses have been realigned, particularly the linear courses where students will be moving into the next phase of learning. We've gone back to the spring to determine gap areas where we need to reinforce skills so that students don't wind up with additional gaps and feeling behind. So that's important for the community to know. Dr. Swift mentioned live engagement. This is one of our major commitments. We know that students need to be engaged. Learning is social. And so having live engagement during each of the learning blocks every day means that students will be logging in 3 different times during the day to engage with their classes, their peers, and their teachers. We've talked a little bit about the rigor and the relevance. I won't go through all of these. We've just shared them, but it's worth repeating and having in the slide visually for folks to see. So Dr. Swift mentioned in the fall and throughout the 2021 school year, whatever mode of learning we are in, student grades and report cards will be issued, attendance will be taken, students will be required to engage. And when students are not engaging, our team members are ready to connect. We have an excellent example of this from summer school. I want to really congratulate Evelyn Doherty, who was the principal of our CESLA program, because they were the first to launch. And Evelyn's work informed the rest of our summer program work, because on the first day of online summer school, when the attendance didn't look the way it needed to, her team engaged in contacting via phone every single family who did not log in on time. And the very next day, they had an incredible increase in engagement, and the day after, almost 100%. So that's the model we're using for fall. And I just really want to recognize Evelyn for that incredible work. This piece is important to our work around social justice, anti-racism. So when we talk about re-envisioning learning, that means re-envisioning every part of the learning experience, how we engage with students, the language we use, the structure of the lessons. And so these pieces are really critical. There are two important informing research-based tools in pedagogy that we will be implementing. One is culturally relevant practices. The other, as Trustee Kelly mentioned and Dr. Swift mentioned, was universal design practices. So you'll see just a few bullets, and the work here is really amazing and high quality. And again, a shout out to our summer school leaders, Sarah Andrew Vaughn, Angela Black, Bernard Bell, Erica Hatt, Tony Stam. Our curriculum writers, our building literacy experts who were all engaged in rewriting the summer curriculum in an online format from a culturally relevant and universal design standpoint. So those become our models in many ways for fall. And these are just a few things. So I know it's late, but at some point we'll come back and talk more about funds of knowledge, culturally responsive pedagogy, and this incredible work that our team is undergoing. And one way that we're supporting in the fall is this team of teachers, really smart teachers all across the district, are engaging this summer in writing the first several days and weeks of lessons so that when staff come back, they have lessons that are effective in a learning environment that is online, that the culturally responsive pedagogy and universal design practices are built in. They will receive professional development on how to implement those lessons. And those lessons then become the model for the rest of the school year. So it's a really important time in the fall for us to really reshape and reimagine how we engage with students in our classrooms. And we're really proud of the work. So we look forward to coming back and sharing more. In addition to this, we're very focused on our supports and connections because our students who need the most really struggled during the spring closure. And we really want to make up, we want to understand the needs, we want to meet those. And so one really important design piece of the structure of fall is so that we can have nimble interventions and respond quickly. So we'll be monitoring the success of students, the level of engagement. We'll be asking families regularly, how's it going? Is it working for you? Is it not working for you? What can we do to support you? And doing everything we can to respond. So that is our commitment. There is absolutely no way we could do anything less and say we care about our kids, which we desperately do. So these are just bullets, but they represent a whole lot of commitment and really core values around serving our students who need the most and making sure they get the most. So we look forward to sharing more of that. This is just another visual way of looking at the fully online options. So we tried to provide this in ways that were clear to the community. Dr. Swift talked about all three of these. The A2 student link is that fully online synchronous learning community where students will remain with teachers and peers online all year. The important thing about that program is that it's classroom paced and it's synchronous. So the kids will log in, they'll engage with their teacher live every day online. A2 Classroom Connect is that neighborhood connection. We're gonna remain with our peers and the teachers in our neighborhood school where we were enrolled before the closure, and those students will continue to gather online or in person, depending on our mode of instruction. And that is grades PK through 12, that model. And then of course we have A2 Virtual, and this is unique. This is expanding to middle school. And in this way, students log in, the curriculum is preloaded. Every part of the coursework is there from the day they log in, and they individually self-pace through that curriculum. There is no daily synchronous instruction. Students are completely individual and self-paced. So this is important for folks to know. There is engagement with an AAPS, A2 virtual teacher. That engagement is on the mentoring and support side, checking in on pacing, making sure students have what they need. And in a really significant and important way, those teachers are providing feedback on the assignments and assessments that the students submit. And that is done in writing, typically over email or within the system. But there is no synchronous direct instruction happening in that program. And that's a good fit for many students, but for many students, it isn't a great fit. So there's a rubric that can help families determine whether their children are well suited for a self-paced, individualized program that we can share. This is a screen that just shows the same thing in narrative form with just a little more detail. So these will be posted and the community can take a look at these, certainly. Kind of lays out a little more description for families, and I won't read it to you. We'll make sure you get it. And now to get to the pieces that Dr. Swift mentioned, we have 2 sample schedules. I'm going to caution that the times here will likely be adjusted. We've heard from our community and from our TLC and our teachers, our AAEA friends, lots of great suggestions about bookending the school day, start and end times, and serving students. But we definitely, as Dr. Swift mentioned, want to take advantage of our opportunity to have high school students starting a little later, getting the rest they need while we can. And so you'll see some times here that represent that. But this is what an elementary day might look like. Beginning the day with morning meeting, into a core academic block, typically ELA or math is the first lesson of the day. There will be specials. Many folks ask, is my child going to get art and PE and music and all those great electives? Absolutely they will. They're going to look a little different in an online setting, but they will get those. There will be a lunch break and then another core academic block. Could be another special that day. Could be another core academic piece that gets injected there. And then at the end of every day, there's a closing circle, a time when students come back together and check in about how they're doing and what their needs are before the next day's learning. On the secondary side, a very similar kind of schedule. Here you're looking at learning blocks beginning 110-minute blocks, learning block 1 followed by block 2, a lunch period, the advisory, which is typically 25 to 30 minutes, and then potentially that learning block and dismissal time. So a few extra minutes there to make sure students have what they need before they leave for the end of the day. So those are just a few examples. I think we'll stop there and take questions and let me know if there's any more information that I can provide.
Thank you, Ms. Linden. Trustee Kelly.
I appreciate these slides. They were exactly what I was hoping for in terms of the details. So you were out ahead of us as usual. Thank you. I just have one really quick question. With the link option, are we asking families to commit semester by semester, or are we asking them to commit year by year?
The design is for a full school year to stay with the same teacher, but we saw so many parents asking the question, when might we change our mind if some circumstances change where we want to try to come back into the school? So they may have that option at midterm.
Got it. So when they check that box on the form in email in August, they think they're checking it for a year, but then they can request getting out at the semester?
Right.
Or are they?
That's
okay.
right. But we're saying the decision is for a minimum of 1 semester.
Okay,
if that makes sense.
Yep.
With the understanding that that would likely require a teacher change.
Right.
For elementary students, we know that's kind of a big deal sometimes. So, yeah.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Gaynor.
Thank you. I first want to go back and thank Ms. Bacalor for her really wonderful presentation. I keep up on COVID and everything, but there were still important things that I learned today that will help inform our decision. So thank you very much. Ms. Linden, the same. I do have one question and one comment. On the schedule, first, for the core academic classes, will it be expected that math, language arts, science, and social studies will be covered in this time period? Can you make any comments about expectations about that?
You bet. So at the elementary level, typically what happens in a traditional setting is we have math and ELA every single day And then every other day alternates between science and social studies. And so it'll be a similar path. We have 3 blocks in the learning, so math, ELA, and then either science or social studies every other day. So in that way, it does resemble what we used to do.
And a much more serious question, on the elementary schedule, I did not see recess.
Yes, recess is really, really important. So we do have recess connected to the lunch period. That's a requirement. We absolutely must have students playing, and they will be cohorted and safe on the playground for sure. So we're going to figure out how to alternate their play times, which is why you don't see them in the schedule. They're going to be different for each grade level when they go out, because we have some separation.
That's in person, but even virtually.
Oh, yeah.
Lunch. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
They're definitely going to have breaks.
At lunchtime for the only recess time.
Yeah, no, they're part of our block time, and we should emphasize this, Trustee Gaynor, so I'm really glad you're asking it, is that for that 90-minute period, students are not going to be online and fully engaged. There have to be brain breaks. Teachers are pretty adept, at monitoring the engagement level of students. And if they're falling off, that's a time to stop and say, guys, go out, do some jumping jacks. We'll be back in 30 minutes and we'll pick up, or we'll be back in 15 and we'll pick up where we left off. We're going to have to be flexible in that way, and developmentally, we just know that the attention span of students, depending on their age, is very different. So it's another reason we're not saying how many minutes of synchronous time every student is going to get, because it really has to adapt to the kids. Yeah.
Right. And a brief comment about Schoology. I know it's new and we're making adjustments and we're working out bugs. And that's aware, but the board also has a decision to make on whether to, or maybe the superintendent does. So I'll leave that there. We have heard from teachers and some parents that there are quite a few glitches, that the things that Schoology have promised to do are not happening. And again, I won't go into the details here, but I wanted to bring that up as a concern, and I'll get back to Dr. Swift with more specifics.
And thank you, Trustee Gaynor. What I'd like to do is just to go ahead and bring that forward next week as an update on Schoology. I received an extensive, appreciated a very thorough list today of concerns. I know that Miss Linden and Dr. Kellstrom have a plan, and we have an entire team working on it. So I think this would be a good time to bring forward, highlight what the issues are and what we're doing to attend to it. So,
thank you. We'll look forward to that. I trust it'll be complete and transparent.
Well, with everything we know at this point, we're not going to keep anything back from you, but it is only the second or third week, right, Ms. Linden? Third week now, so we're in the middle of the third week.
Thanks. Trustee Lazarus?
Thank you, President Johnson. I have 3 questions. You mentioned that we have a one-to-one device program that is out for students, and that you want all students to have a district-owned device so that they can see certain things that you couldn't see on a personal device. Is that still, so people can't, you're not recommending that people use their own personal devices?
Ms. Linden, yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I just need clarification on that.
Sure. Well, one of the reasons we want to issue devices to every student is so that the login is secure. What we've learned through summer and through spring is that sometimes students are logging in on their parents' laptop or on an iPad that students share. And when that happens, they're not actually logged into their Google accounts. They're still logged in sometimes under their parent accounts. And when that happens, they have connection issues with the learning. And so our goal is to make sure the learning access is seamless. We also heard from parents that sharing the devices is a challenge. And when we are fully online and synchronous in the way we're planning for fall, every student has got to have their own device. That's really the only way it will work. So for both security and access, we will be issuing them to every student. Many students already received one in the distribution that we did in the spring. So in K2, they'll be receiving iPads, in grades 3 through 12, Chromebooks with degrees of RAM and capabilities based on their needs. So.
Okay. So I know that a lot of parents, they're very mindful of the cost to the district. This is something that we are buying through the tech bond also, so that is not something that is coming out of general funds. So I just want to make sure parents understand that.
That's right.
And so we may want to send out another, survey so that with the options, so that parents understand that this is something that the reason why we would like them to have a school device versus their personal device, because they're trying to save the district money and, use their own personal device, which is great. I totally applaud that.
So before you go on, we will make that a part of the enrollment process that we do. But I guess I want to clarify while we're public, Ms. Linden, is it advised or recommended or required? We'll work on that language and kind of share with them the rationale. But I know you're thinking, Ms. Linden, about whether that word is advised or strongly recommended or required.
Absolutely. And I probably should add that the district devices are formatted with all of our apps and tools. And so I should have led with that. That's probably the most significant reason they need a district device. They won't have all those great apps that we pay for and are loaded onto our tools. So.
Okay.
And a fair amount of the struggles we're dealing with, and I meant to give a shout out to the tech team earlier, but over 10,000 calls, and a fair amount of those could be resolved if they were using this completely set up machine that has everything on it. Is that correct, Dawn?
That is correct. That was the majority of the login issues had to do with that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. My second question is A2 virtual. It is for 6th graders to 12th graders. Is that a path that someone who's in 6th grade, who's very self-motivated, could actually take the necessary courses needed to actually graduate without going to the Connect or the Link option?
They absolutely can. Correct, Ms. Linden?
That is correct. There are a few electives, well, probably several electives that students in that situation may want to choose to take in their neighborhood school or with their neighborhood school, like band and choir. That's kind of hard to do individualized and self-paced. And so those kinds of electives students typically would take in their neighborhood school or with those peers.
But the actual core curriculum, they can right on that virtual, A2 virtual. Okay. The other thing that I noticed in the schedule on slide number 12 and 13 is that the synchronous for secondary equals 355 minutes of synchronous. So that works out to almost 6 hours on the computer in front, live with bandwidth that's for video and presentation. How realistic is that? Is that something that it says synchronous? Now that's for the, that's number, I think it's slide 13 I was thinking of. Nope, maybe it was.
So that's the elementary and that's the
that's the secondary. So it's slide 15. So they're not physically in front for 110 minutes. They're like in front as long as the teacher needs them, and then they log off, do their work, and then back at 10:30, they log back on, But they're not sitting in front of that computer that long.
No, they're not. No, we're calling that second half, and I say half loosely because it's going to depend on what the lesson content is that day. But roughly half of that block will be practice and application time. It could be small group, it could be, independent application, but they're logged off and they're doing that work independently is the goal.
Okay. And for the elementary side of the students who are basically, it's kind of the same situation, they're synchronous, asynchronous. But it comes out to about almost 300 hours, 300 minutes also, which is close to 5 hours.
Right.
We all understand for the really, really young ones, grade 2 and under, screen time is somewhat devastating to their learning process going forward. Are teachers very aware of these things, and are we trying to minimize screen time as much as possible for the younger, students?
I'm so glad you asked that question, Trustee Lazarus, because it's really, really important. And thinking about our PK through second grade
Right.
students in particular, and considering 3 and 4-year-olds who are also going to be with an iPad for short bursts with their teacher.
Right.
They are aware, teachers are aware, but we need to do far more on the development side to make sure that we're staying within our blended learning parameters. We've got really great guidance, and thankfully, almost 200, I think, blended learning teachers have been trained. So we have a cadre of really strong coaches all across the district. And really there's guidance that is so specific, like your videos shouldn't last more than 6 minutes if you're going to post up a video. So it's guidance that clear about how we engage students online. So it's a big part of our development. When teachers come back in August, they want that. They want to engage their students. They don't want to exhaust them or overwhelm them. And the thing about screen time is there's lots of research, and of course you can always find research on many sides of an issue, but what we've learned now about screen time is that there are different kinds. There's sedentary screen time where you're watching a movie. There's absolutely no interaction. You're not being asked to do anything. And then there's active interaction in a screen where you're problem solving. They're actually finding that is not harmful to students to be engaged in screen time that is engaging in problem solving in that way. We obviously still, for eyes and other health reasons, don't want students staring at screens for long periods, but I just want to reassure the community we're aware of all of that, we're working within it, and we want to keep our kids healthy.
Okay, good. As long as we're aware and we're doing what we can to minimize that. Thank you.
You bet.
Great. Trustees, any other questions? All right, seeing none, I have 2 quick ones. So one, Wednesday and Saturday. So are Saturdays required, and what types of things might people do on Saturdays? And also, what does Wednesday look like? I know you talked about CRs, and you talked about independent type projects and tutoring and things. Can you speak to what some of those options might be, and who might lead something like that on a Wednesday or Saturday?
Thank you so much, President Johnson. I'm so happy that you asked that question. We are delighted with Wednesdays and Saturdays. Trustee Lazarus' remarks just now are exactly why we looked for a way to really enrich the week and not have it be 5 days of the same, log in and show up at the same time. So the Wednesday, they will need to do an independent activity that their teacher has given for them, because we can't give up a day of learning, but that will be connected to what they're learning in class. But we know that students will probably zoom right through some of that, and then the schedule will be more flexible. So if it's a college prep or a FAFSA session, that might be a school counselor or one of our college counselors. If it's a math tutoring session over specific academic skill, that might be a paraeducator who's, we're really asking our paraeducators to step up and use their talents and skills in many ways. We have a wide network of, if you forgive the term, adjunct instructors through Rec and Ed, and they will be offering just that wide variety that's in the Rec and Ed catalog, that kind of instruction, virtually, and some face-to-face and socially distanced small groups outdoors, if our infection rate allows us to. So the neighborhood parks, etc., might be a soccer game. We do see music and drama workshops. We see a lot of the assembly type activities because we can't gather large groups of students. So there might be the kinds of things we do when we do a high school forum that they've done on anti-racism and a series of speakers over a half-day seminar forum. Many of you have spoken at those and been involved in those. Our high schools and middle schools do a tremendous job. Our environmental education, our 2 environmental ed teachers will, I know, be very excited about continuing their environmental education. And they'll do that on lots of days, but they'll offer some great things as well. So we're looking, President Johnson and trustees, we are looking to really do what Ann Arbor does best, and that is just pursue a passion, find an interest, and if you want to get college credit or do a CR, if you want it to be formalized, great. Or if you just want to sign up for a talk session, I'm actually excited to convene a student leadership group that would meet on various Wednesdays, student leadership forum, community forums, that kind of thing. So I know you all will have more ideas and we'll see how it plays out. But we wanted to give flexibility because if the infection rate remains going upward, our students are going to miss potentially a lot of those connections that they have at school, clubs and activities. And we want all of that to continue to flourish. So we just wanted to give extra flex time for all that kind of thing to happen.
Got it. And the same thing would happen on Saturday as well?
Saturday will look, I believe, will look more recreational in nature. Although many of our schools have done Saturday school in the past, extra tutorials or skill-based sessions. So that has occurred in the past, but we are thinking that Saturdays will be more recreational in nature.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. That all sounds really exciting.
Even our Trailblazer at Pioneer, like those kinds of programs, the mentoring, student mentoring, we can see a lot of that happening. So
this is some of Trustee Kelly's CV stuff, right? That people can add to their.
Yes. Not only can they add to their CV, they can learn how to create their CV all on Wednesdays.
Sure. Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Trustees, any other questions, comments, concerns before we adjourn? Trustee Lazarus.
I just want to thank you, President Johnson. I just want to make one last clarifying comment. That we are offering full virtual, but we are also offering a blended version where kids can come to the school and be taught in class, but it will be in a smaller classroom environment and part-time virtual.
Yes.
There's not an option where they'll be there 4 days or 5 days a week. It's a blended virtual in-person. And so parents do have the option, if they feel confident that they can send their children to school to have face-to-face, that would be, and our goal is to move it from the youngest children who have the lowest infection rate to the on up in age. Is that correct?
That's correct. And you could see a scenario where, dependent upon infection rates, we might start at 1 day a week, 25%, 2 days a week, 50%. We could see that phasing in happening depending on our infection rate.
Right.
For now, everyone is all virtual, but the one commitment says when it's time, I want to try to go in when we're clear.
So right now, we're all virtual.
Yes.
No part-time.
Right.
Okay, I just want to be clear on that. Okay.
Right. And at such time when those infection rates come down where we can, then those who've chosen A2, help me out, Classroom Connect, right, is they would be the ones who've said, yes, we want to try it when the infection rate, the public health determines we're ready.
Okay.
Excellent. So I saw Trustee Lightfoot's hand go up and down. Trustee Lightfoot, did you have a question, comment?
No, the superintendent cleared it up. I just need that. Yeah, okay.
Thank
We're
you.
good.
We were probably thinking the same thing. So,
Yeah.
okay, great. And then Trustee Nelson, I saw your hand go up and down. Are you okay?
Same thing. That I appreciated Dr. Swift's clarification that it is all virtual beginning this fall and then evolving.
Yep.
Right.
And
And the Classroom Connect have said, yes, we want to be in the migratory group. And the Student Link have said, no, we want to remain a virtual learning community in the cloud.
perfect.
And
Perfect.
certainly we don't have crystal balls, but it's nice if folks can choose so then they can keep their same teacher.
And people who chose the Connect through this first round could change their mind and go total virtual. If it's working out for them, they could say, no, we're
They
going to.
can, and they can also remain virtual in that classroom.
Right.
Okay.
They don't have to change from their teacher. They can just remain virtual.
Right. So
Okay.
then, so in that scenario, their classmates might go back into a class, but they could remain virtual if they felt more comfortable remaining virtual.
Yes. And we didn't tease it out so much, but I think everybody, it's obvious, I hope. The beauty of this, if a case pops up in a classroom, children go home that day, everybody has to quarantine, they can still have class the next day. So, isn't that wonderful? That we don't have to go through the disruption of moving people into a particular setting. So,
Well, thanks a lot for all the hard work. I mean, one thing that COVID has taught us is the terrain moves under our feet every day. And what I really like about this plan is that it allows us to predict some things, to prepare ahead of time, to sense when something's happening, and then to adjust as necessary. So, thank you so much for this. Trustees, thanks so much for being so attentive. Thanks to the district team for all of your hard work. So then next week we will have a second briefing. We'll answer any lingering questions, and then at that point we decide to approve or to take a different option at that point.